Tiga.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we gonna presentation about the Celtic Kingdom, and we are from Group 3. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Izo Camila.
And I'm Sekar.
Now let us begin our presentation. So, first, let me tell you something. England has always played the most powerful part in history of British Isles. However, the other three countries, Wales, Ireland, and Scotland, have a different story. Until recently, few historians look at British history except from an English point of view. But the stories of Wales, Ireland, and Scotland are also important because the people still feel different from the Anglo-Saxon English. There's a three country that is Wales, Ireland, and Scotland. First of all is Wales. Who is this man? By the 8th century, most of the south has been driven into the Welsh Peninsula. They were kept out of England by Overdike, the huge earth wall built in AD 779. The South, called Wales by the Anglo-Saxon, called themselves Mere, the fellow countrymen. Wales is the mountainous country. The small could only live in the crowded valley. The rest of the land was rocky and too poor for anything except for keeping animals. For this reason, the population remained small. It only grew to over half a million in 18th century. Life was hard and so behavior of the people, slavery was common, as it had been all through Celtic Britain. A society in Wales. Society was based on family grouping, each of which owned one or more village or farm settlement. One by one, and each group a strong leader made himself king. This man must have been tribal chief to begin with, who later managed to become overlord over neighboring family groups. Each of these kings tried to conquer the others, and the idea of the Hind or senior king developed. The early king traveled around their kingdom to remind the people of their control. They traveled with their hungry followers and soldiers. The ordinary people ran away into the hills and wood when the king's men approached their village. Life was dangerous, and bloody. Two is Ireland. What happened in Ireland? Ireland was never invaded by either the Romans or Anglo-Saxon. It was a land of monasteries and had a flourishing Celtic culture. As in Wales, people were known by their family grouping they belonged to. Outside their tribe, they had no protection and no name of their own. They had only the name of the tribe. The king and this tribal society were chosen by election. The idea was the strongest man should lead. The fact the system led to continuous challenge. There's the fourth country. Is it Ulster in the north, Munster in the southwest, Leinster in the southeast, Connacht in the west, started as the seat of the High King of Ireland. The Christianity. Christianity, Christianity came to Ireland in about AD 430. The beginning of the Ireland history dates from that time. Because for the first time, there were a people who could write down even. The message of Christianity was spread in Ireland by British slave Barrick, who became the patron saint of Ireland. Christianity broke writing, which weakened the position of Druids, who depends on memory and spoken word. Christian monasteries grew up frequently along the coast. The Viking came. This period is often called Ireland Golden Age, in fact where art and culture flourished. But it is also true, the five kingdoms were often at war, of trying to gain advantage over the other, often with the great cruelty. This golden age suddenly ended with arrival of Viking riders, who stole all the monasteries had. Very little was left except the stone memorial that Viking could not carry away. The Viking who traded with Constantine Constantinople, now Istanbul, Italy, and with Central Russia brought fresh economic and political action into Irish life, picking red force and the Aristo unit. In 859, Ireland chose the first king, but it was not an effective solution because of the quarrel is that took place of each time a new king has chosen. Viking trade led to the first town and port for the South, who had always lived in a small settlement. These were revolutionary. Dublin, Ireland's future capital, was founded by the Viking. As an effective modern method, after all, the High Kingship of Ireland lasted only 12 years, from 1002 and to 1014. While Ireland was ruled by Brian Boru, he said looked back on Ireland's greatest rule. He tried to create one single Ireland and, and encourage the growth of the organization in the church, in administration, and in learning. But Brian Boru died in a battle against the Viking because one of the five Irish king, the King of Leinster, fought on the Viking side. Just over a century later, another king of Leinster invited the Norman of the island to help him against his high king. This gave the Norman the excuse they want to enlarge their kingdom.
Okay, and then Scotland. Where is Scotland? As a result of its geography, Scotland has two different societies. In the center of Scotland, mountains stretch to the far north and across to the west, beyond which lie many islands. To the east and to the south, the lowland hills are gentler, and much of the countryside is like England, rich, welcoming, and easy to farm. North of the highland line, as the division between highland and lowland is called. People stayed tied to their own family group. South and east of this line society was more easily influenced by the change taking place in England. The fourth spread group. The Pitch. The Pitch lived mostly in the north and northwest. They spoke Celtic as well as another, probably older language completely and connected with any known language today, and they seem to have been the earliest inhabitants of the land. The Pitch were different from the Celt because they inherited their right, their name and property from their mother, not from their fathers. The Scots. The Scots were Celtic settlers who had started to move into the Western Highlands from Ireland in the 4th century. In 843, the Picts and Scottish Kingdom were united under a Scottish king, who could also probably claim the British throne through his mother, in this way obeying both Scottish and Pictish rules of kingship. The Britons. The Britons who inhabited the lowlands and had been part of the Roman British world. The name of their kingdom, Strathclyde, was used again in the country reorganization of 1974. They had probably given up their old tribal way of life by the 6th century. The angels. Finally, there were angels from Northumbria who had pushed northwards into the Scottish lowlands. The similarity and the difference. Unity between pairs Scott and Britain was heavy for several reasons. They all shared a common Celtic culture, language, and background. Their economy mainly depended on keeping animals. These animals were owned by the tribe as a whole, and for this reason, land was also held by tribes, not by individual people. Then, sense of common culture may have been created by marriage alliance between tribes. This idea of common land holding remained strong until the tribes of Scotland, called clans, collapsed in the 18th century. The spirit of Celtic Christian also helped to unite the people. The first Christian mission to Scotland had come to southwest Scotland in about AD 400. Later, in 563, Columba, known as the Dove of the Crutch, came from Ireland. Through his work, both Highland Scot and Pitch were brought to Christianity. He even saw its, it is said, defeated a monster in Loch Ness, the first mention of this famous creature. By the time of the Synod of Whitty in 663, the Peers, Scott, and Britons had all been brought closer together by Christianity. The Angels were very different from the Celts. They had a rift in Britain in family group, but they soon began to accept authority from people outside their own family. This was partly due to their way of life. Although they keep some animals, they spend more time growing crop. This meant that land was held by individual people, each man working in his own field. Land was distributed for farming by the local lord. The system encouraged the Angles of Scotland to develop a non-tribal system of control as the people of England further south were doing. This increased their feeling of difference from the Celtic tribal Highlanders further north. The attack. Finally, as in Ireland and in Wales, foreign invaders increased the speed of political change. Vikings attacked the coastal areas of Scotland, and the settlers of many of the islands settled the Orkneys, the Hebrides, and the Isle from Man southwest of Scotland. In order to reset them, Pierce and Scott fought together against the enemy raiders and settlers. When they could not push them out of the island and coastal areas, they had to deal with them politically. At first, the Vikings or Norsemen still served the King of Norway, but communication with Norway were difficult. Slowly, the Earls of Orkney and other areas found it easier to accept the King of Scots as their overlord rather than the more distant king of Norway. However, as the Welsh had also discovered, the English were a greater danger than the Vikings. In 934, the Scots were seriously defeated by a Wessex army pushing northwards. The Scots decided to seek the friendship of the English because of the likely losses from war. England was obviously stronger than Scotland, but luckily for the Scots, both the north of England and Scotland were difficult to control from London. The Scots hoped that if they were reasonably precise, the Saxonic, as they called Saxon, and still called the English, would leave them alone.
Hmm. Yeah, this is all from us. Thank you for watching and see you next video. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.